This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day our producer Louis had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy. If a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we can text ya whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track extra. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track Extra. For those of you who don't know, every Wednesday evening at 6:30 for around about quarter of an hour, and every Saturday afternoon at 3 for about twice that, we bring you a mixture, a mélange, a mishmash, I can't think of the other words beginning with M, of hard science, weird shit, and surreality. What's surreality, you ask? Well, I think you ought to ask Lilith, who's in the other room making silly noises.
I know what surreality is, but I'm not going to tell you because you're all too stupid and it's all vulgar.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we get on with the main body of today's show, I want to pray your indulgence and give you this appeal. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the director of an organisation called the Centre for Fortean Zoology, which is the largest mystery animal research group in the English-speaking world, and we like to think the best. We've been going now for over 30 years, and in those 3 decades we have sometimes carried out campaigns to try to raise money for equipment or for expedition expenses. But one thing we never do is to raise money for ourselves, because money is nowhere near as important as the search for expanding the boundaries of human knowledge, which is, at the risk of sounding horribly self-important, what this organisation is all about. However, we are a family in a very real sense, and there have been times over the years that we have made appeals to raise money for members of the CFZ family who are down on their luck. And this time I want to tell you about my friend Lars Thomas. He was one of the earliest members of the Centre for Fortean Zoology back when, in 1994, we started publishing our magazine, Animals and Men. And I have known him therefore for 30 years this year, which seems to be a remarkable length of time. He has recently become very ill, and he's in a hospital, partially paralysed and not able to work or indeed do anything very much. And so Richard Freeman phoned me the other night and suggested that we do a crowdfunding exercise to try and raise some money for him while he is in such a dire straits. And so I had a word with Miss Guinevere, and she went and set it all up. And you can read all about the appeal here at this link. What I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, is that Lars is a very nice, sweet and kind man who's been very kind and generous to all of us over the years, and it's about time, I think, that the CFZ paid something back. Please dig deep in your pockets and do whatever you can to support this very worthwhile appeal. And so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of On the Track Extra. And this week you were supposed to be having, through Zoom, you were supposed to be having me talking to Glen Vaudrey, so you could see Glen Vaudrey's marvellous visage and even more marvellous beard than mine. But we couldn't get Zoom to work, so I ended up recording the phone call through those jolly nice people at Recordator and just shoving the logo of Weird Weekend North this year and the cartoon that I think it was Hunt Emerson did of dear old Glen. So here you have me talking to Glen about the Weird Weekend. Enjoy.
But now, tell me, Weird Weekend North, how, when, what and why?
Right, I shall tell you all about Weird Weekend North. Weird Weekend North takes place on the 27th and 28th of April 2024 at the Exeter with Glazebrook Community Hall. I shall tell you all about the talks lineup.
Yes, please.
And we've got a great mix of talks. This year we have Nick McLaren on the Winter Hill investigations. Winter Hill is a large hill just on the outskirts of Bolton in the northwest of England, and the Winter Hill investigation team goes up and around Winter Hill and surrounding areas looking at all of the mysterious sightings, including the Beast of Winter Hill. This has been described as being anything from a black cat to a werewolf kind of creature, and there's even been reports of UFOs and other high strangeness.
Now that's weird because I'm actually working with Mick on a completely different project, which I didn't know he was actually at Weird Weekend North this year.
Yeah, so I'm glad to say Nick and his team are coming to Weird Weekend, and it's a great talk.
Brilliant. Okay, who's next?
And the next talk we have is Claire Davey. Claire Davey is from ASAP, and she'll be talking about aviation ghosts and Flight 401. Flight 401 was a plane that crashed in the Florida Everglades in the 1970s. And following its crash, there was a number of ghostly reports following the rather unusual idea that some of the spare parts of the crashed plane were then put on other planes. And the crew on those other planes are supposed to have seen members of the dead crew in the crashed plane.
Bloody hell, that's a weird one, isn't it?
So, let's face it, in the 1970s, they did like to reuse lots of stuff. So, recycling is clearly a thing from the 1970s.
Well, I've always wondered why, when somebody has a heart transplant, why they're not haunted by the original owner of the heart.
Oh, they could be. That could be a talk for another year.
Well, if they are, then exactly the same thing is happening with that aeroplane. So
it would certainly make you wonder about car crashes, car parts, body parts. There's plenty of horror films in the 1970s suggesting body parts could take over.
yes. Now you're scaring me. Come on, change the subject. What's on next?
Okay, the next one is Andrew Ross. Andrew Ross runs a ghost tour in County Durham, and his talk is Mistaken Ghosts, Ghostly Pranks and Spooky Challenges of Durham, a collection of ghostly tales that are not all that they seem at first. He will share the stories of some tales that turn out to be pranks or mistaken identity. A tale of a ghost that haunts a village causing mayhem outside of Durham City, a man who scared himself to death, a spooky walk home from the pub, and teammates scaring each other after learning that a ghost is said to haunt a hotel they were staying in, students playing pranks on their fellow students. And these are just some of the stories that are said to be ghosts.
Well, that's interesting. My brother went to university at County Durham, but as he was doing his theology degree, I can't imagine him playing stupid jokes on anybody.
So we'll be all finding out about, County Durham, and Andrew runs a very successful ghost tour in Durham, so it'll be a fascinating talk.
Very cool.
And our next speaker is Nathan Jackson. He'll be talking about the Hollow Earth. From the depths of ancient legend to the classic adventure novels of CGI-packed Hollywood blockbusters, stories of the Hollow Earth, a world within ours, has been told ever since there have been humans to sit around campfires and hear tales. Even today, in the age of spaceflight and computers, the ideas of a mysterious world, a mysterious inner world where the hollow or honeycombed remained unbelievably fascinating. Could these tales be founded on glimmers of truth? I
like Nathan. He's a very promising young man. He's got a great future ahead of him, I think.
He's certainly got great talks. I'm looking forward to seeing if Doug McGraw turns up in any of these ideas.
He should do, shouldn't he?
They were all the films he was in, and if it hadn't been for Star Wars in 1977, we might have had more of these films as well. And following on from the Hollow Earth, we have Steve Jones.
Yay, good old Steve.
Yes, we've got Steve again, and he's talking about the Leeds dripping riot.
I love that. He did that once right at the beginning, and when there were only about 20 people who came to the original Weird Weekend, he did that for me, oh crikey, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, I'm just going to work out exactly the numbers. I reckon it's 23 years. I reckon the Leeds dripping riot will be appearing for the first time in about 23 years to a whole new audience.
Well, yes, and 23 is a very Fortean number.
I might have got the number wrong, but it sounds good. And yeah, it will be the story of the arrest and imprisonment of an Irish cook in Leeds for stealing dripping, leading to a mass riot and what could have been a massacre.
I wish it had been called the Leeds Dripping Massacre, because that sounds like a sort of 1960s protest song.
Oh, I was just thinking of a painting with that, but I'm just thinking how it would look with people drizzled in white, and I'm not entirely sure that'll go well. You never know, man. So our next talk is also in Leeds, and this is Anna Goodrich, and she'll be talking about the Leeds Library Ghost.
Oh, that's cool. Who's Anna then? I don't know her.
Anna Goodrich is a librarian working at the Leeds Library, the old Leeds Library. A library that was built in 1808. She's also done talks at ASAP. And Anna will be talking about the resident ghost that was first reported in 1844. And it is believed to be the ghost of a former head librarian. And it is basically a good story of the sightings of the ghost and the investigations, including a gun-wielding librarian. That'll teach people to bring the books back late.
Oh, please tell me his name was Conan the Librarian.
Sadly, he wasn't. Well, I don't know if he was. We might find out one day.
So who else do we have?
We have our next speaker is C.J. Romer.
He's great, isn't he?
Yeah, C.J. Romer will be talking about the vanishing house. In rural Suffolk, for over a century, people have reported seeing a house that is not there. Was there ever a house on the spot? Is it a case of mistaken identity, or is this a ghostly memory of a forgotten tragedy? CJ has spent over 30 30 years on this case and has some new evidence to present.
Sounds great to me.
And our next speaker is Bob Fisher. Bob Fisher is returning to Weird Weekend, and his talk is Through the Portal. In March 1984, 11-year-old Bob Fisher found a previously unnoticed pathway from his hometown leading to a play park he'd never seen before. He jumped immediately to the only rational conclusion: he'd passed through a magical portal into a mystical realm. In his talk, Bob explores various portals of children's fiction and how they fired his young imagination, exploring Narnia, Elderon, and Tom's Midnight Garden alike. And he asks, do we all still need our own personal mystical realm to explore?
Well, I think we all do. That's why we do what we do, I think.
It is, and Bob is a great speaker at events, formerly of radio, BBC Radio Middlesbrough, I think he was. I'd say he's a great writer on that, and supplies a soundtrack for the Weird Weekend as well.
Brilliant. Oh, well done.
And our next speaker is Matteo Barini. Matteo appeared last year in a magical act that we had. This year he's back in his more scientific guise, and he'll be looking at the case of the supposed Venice vampire. In 2009, a skeleton was uncovered during an archaeological dig in one of the islands of Venice that had a brick wedged in its mouth. And was this brick put there to stop it feeding? And Matthew will be exploring some of the theories and giving us details of his research.
Sounds good to me.
And our next speaker is Rob Gandy. And Rob Gandy is talking about the Russingham Horror. And the Russingham Horror first appears in the public attention in February 1998 on This Morning. And following its first mention on there, a number of people came forward and were telling stories of their encounters of something strange along a stretch of road. Dr. Rob Gandy started looking into these reports and went on to uncover more sightings. And he ended up writing a two-part article in the 14 Times back in 2021. And this talk of Rob's was due to be a Weird Weekend in one of the years that the COVID lockdown stopped it. So we finally get to hear this talk a couple of years after it was stopped by the government.
That makes it sound far more sinister. And that's the reason why there was lockdown. They didn't want Rob Gandy at the Weird Weekend telling the truth. So they stopped everybody in the whole country from going out just in order to stop it.
And if it happens again, we know why.
Of course we do.
And my talk will be In Search of Atland, the North Sea Atlantis. In 1860, a book by the name of the Orlinda first appeared. This document claimed to have been written as far back as 2194 BC, telling you of a mysterious island, Atland, and this futuristic land that seemed very much like a northern Atlantis. And in my talk, I'll be looking at the evidence for this land to exist, some of the more interesting claims, and sharing my findings with everybody.
Oh, lovely.
And final talk, oh no, we've got two more talks. Another one of our talks is Mark Newbrook. He's talking about folk linguistics. And this will be looking at the ideas about language, which are popular amongst non-linguistics, people who know nothing about linguistics, and it's known as folk linguistics. And it will be looking at regarding the fringe linguistic theories proclaimed by a small number of non-linguistics and extreme manifestations in folk linguistics. It's far more interesting than the way I've made it sound.
No, I know Mark Newbrook. He's a very interesting guy.
He did a great talk a couple of years ago that was really worth catching up on. You could probably find it on YouTube, but yeah, it's well worth well worth his talks. And finally, we have some bloke by the name of Richard Freeman, known to the CFZ, and he'll be telling us about the cryptids, hunting the cryptids in Tajikistan, and we shall find out what he got up to.
Fantastic.
But if you really want to find out, you have to get yourself up to Weird Weekend at the end of April this year.
Well, how much does it cost?
And the good thing is, prices have been frozen, so it's £50 for both days or £30 for one day.
And how can one get hold of tickets?
And you can find the Weird Weekend tickets online at Weird Weekend, and that is Weird Weekend North, and it's weirdweekendnorth.com.
Sounds fantastic. Sounds absolutely wonderful. I'm really looking forward to it. And will you be having lard eating again?
We're not sure about lard eating due to the lack of people's stomachs. They just aren't as strong as they used to be. I personally want lard eating, but people bottle it, I'm afraid. All I can say, if you do take part in a lard eating contest, Imodium is recommended.
I'm sure it is. But I look forward to hearing all about it.
Certainly, if we do get lard eating, we'll be sharing the videos widely around the country.
And one of these days, I will even get somebody to be able to drive me up so I can come and see what's happening.
Well, hopefully, because we will be back in 2025.
That's brilliant.
Not only that, I've almost got a full list.
Blimey. I never started to work out the next year until about the day before the previous year started. So you're doing jolly well.
I've got, basically most of 2025, and I've started on 2026.
Jesus. Well, congratulations then. Well done. I hope it's a smashing success like it has been in the past.